Welcome back here today on the beautiful campus of Florida Panhandle Technical College. Another in our series of what's going on in the community. Spring has sprung. You know, we had a crazy beginning of the year. February was inordinately warm. March was inordinately cool. If you've seen some of our segments done with some of the farmers in the areas, with the farmers markets particularly, you'll know that produce, locally anyway, has been stunted. We're looking at that getting more prolific as time goes on. Weather is certainly nice right now, and for the first time in several years right here in Northwest Florida, we actually are experiencing a spring. Our guests today are Cheryl Harris with American Heritage Girls and Coy Pennington with Trail Life. Coy is no stranger to the show. You've seen Coy before talking about his decision to change his affiliation from Boy Scouts of America to Trail Life. If you have heard those discussions, you certainly know some of the history. If not, we're going to be talking about some of that. When we come back, we're going to talk to Cheryl and Coy about the importance of being engaged in young children's lives, in being the role model and espousing to them all of those tenets with which you agree. Hopefully, you're more on the conservative side than not. When it comes to me, there's room for everybody. When we come back, we're going to talk about what is right for Cheryl and Coy when it comes to Trail Life and American Heritage Girls. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guests today are Cheryl Harris from American Heritage Girls and an old friend of the show, Coy Pennington from Trail Life. Thanks so very much for both of you guys coming on. Recently, Coy sent me an email saying, hey, we've got some changes to the organization. That was subsequent to him being scheduled as a guest at our Chipley Kiwanis Club here. You guys will be going together to lunch today?
Yes.
Good. It's interesting. I've been a member of the local club for about 10 years. For about 7 of that, I've been the program chair. So for 7 years, I've arranged 50-some programs a year. And I told them I needed to take a 6-month leave of absence. Our teaching here at the school was getting a little more complicated. Our schedule was getting a little more heavy. I needed to take some time off. They said, you can take your 6 months off, but you still have to schedule all the programs. And when I came away from that meeting, I said, what have I gained here? I just don't know. What I've gained, though, to answer that question for myself, is that for the same reason that I took that job to begin with, every time I schedule a program for Kiwanis, I also have a candidate for a show. So with programming as it is, and with us wanting to put a spotlight on everything going on right here in what we call the real Florida, especially of Washington, Jackson, and Holmes County, some of Southeast Alabama, and some of Bay County, this works out perfectly. So I say all that as a way to explain to you, Cheryl, how this works, why we do what we do. You are with American Heritage Girls. I'm going to start off talking with Coy a little bit and then go back to you. What's interesting, Coy, is that you mentioned that you got your start because of Cheryl, or Cheryl helped you to get organized. Let's start at the very beginning, though. You were initially, first of all, lest I forget, you are both military families. That is very important to us on this show. Thank you both for your service. I never missed that opportunity. It means so much to us, so thank you very much, both of you, for your service. Coy, you were involved in Boy Scouts of America. You've got a young son. You were involved in Cub Scouts and then subsequently going into Boy Scouts. Talk a little bit about that experience and the changes that were experienced as far as that goes, and why you changed your affiliation to Trail Life.
I was the Cub Master for the local Cub Scout Pack 339 that the Kiwanis sponsored here in Chipley. And in 2000, when the Boy Scouts made their decision to change their membership standards for the boys, to allow openly gay boys, that was the auspices for a group of men and women to get together, and that's how Trail Life USA started. In 2013, they gathered together, they had their first convention, they chartered, and then the program rolled out in January of 2014, Trail Life USA. I was with Boy Scouts at that time, and I remained in Boy Scouts, hoping to be salt and light to those young boys that might come into my troop that needed guidance. I was planning on taking over the Boy Scout troop after my son transitioned from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. I had already arranged to do that. And then in 2014, the Boy Scouts changed their membership standards for the adult leadership to allow openly gay adults to wear the Boy Scout uniform and represent the organization. And it was at that point that my family could no longer remain in the program. I could not, in good conscience, wear the uniform and thereby advocate that lifestyle as a normal lifestyle. So we began looking at alternatives, and that's when we fell upon Trail Life USA. I researched the organization and thought this is a perfect fit for my family. I contacted my pastor and pitched it to him and the church, and they immediately embraced the idea. We chartered our troop in November of 2014, and then November of 2015, and then we started having meetings in January of 2016. We're sponsored by First Baptist Church in Bonifay.
Right. Let me point out that although unabashedly conservative in nature, our show definitely puts a light or a spotlight on anyone who wants to come and do the show. And we don't want anyone to think that this is a hate-filled episode in particular, or that we are in any way against anybody. However, in our pre-show, we talked briefly about sometimes if you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing, or it's perceived that you stand for the wrong things. I personally don't have a problem with anything anybody else does in their own personal lives. But when it's forced upon me, that's when I have a problem. And it doesn't matter what it is. In this case, we're talking about alternative lifestyles. I believe everybody has the same constitutional rights, the same God-given rights, but don't force it on me and mine. So I certainly respect your recognizing the situation, feeling the way that you did, and making the change that you did. Interestingly, as we also talked about briefly in the pre-show, Ted Spangenberg Jr., longtime proponent, advocate, supporter, mentor in the Boy Scouts of America, decided that when these changes were made, he would stay for the simple reason that if a young boy, in this case 8, 9, 12 years old, had doubts about his sexuality, there's probably no better place for him to be than in scouting or some organization where he could be one of several mentors to maybe bring some sanity to that situation. That's as much as we're going to talk about that aspect of it. You pointed out, though, interestingly, that Cheryl helped you. Your organization has been around since the 90s. Mm-hmm. Let's start at the beginning with your organization. Talk about American Heritage Girls and what that's all about, and then ultimately how you got involved with Coy.
American Heritage Girls started in 1995. Basically, Patty Garibay is the founder. She kind of saw that change in the other girls and organizations out there as well, and she wanted something more Christ-centered for her own daughters. And so she, along with other parents locally there in Cincinnati, Ohio, started American Heritage Girls for, again, a scouting type organization. It's a premier girls character development organization.
And I like you using that verbiage, character development.
Yes, and that is really what it's about, and it's about the whole person and not one aspect. As we, these issues of lifestyle come up, there's nothing wrong with men cooking cakes, and there's nothing wrong with girls, going camping in the woods. And I was prior service myself. I've been in the Army. I get it, but that doesn't mean I'm questioning my gender.
Sure.
We play different roles, and this, I think both organizations are good at exposing the children and youth to lots of different opportunities because they're well-rounded and they look at the whole person. So about faith and life skills and leadership and service, all of those things are important to myself as a parent, as a citizen. There is a strong, one of the whole frontiers in American Heritage Girls, it's called the Heritage Frontier, and it's all about like citizenship and government and, our heroes and learning about, American history and so forth. And of course, that's important to me as a military family.
Unfortunately, our educational system has changed, and whether we want to blame it on our system of tests, where most of our educational curriculum is based on making that student capable of passing a test or the test, Whatever the reason, we have lost a lot of the old school that I experienced. Now, granted, I went to a Christian school. I was Catholic school raised. I had 3 years of Latin and 6 years of French before I got into high school. I'm not saying you need that, but because of that, I'm a grammar Nazi to my kids and grandkids. You know, vocabulary is very important. Reading is very important. A love of reading. We don't foster necessarily those interests in our children anymore. You mentioned leadership. We find our chambers of commerce now doing once a year doing a big leadership a fundraiser where they all sit around and watch a video trying to become leaders. Leaders are spawned, leaders are recognized, leaders are trained, leaders are groomed at the very young age of fill in the blank. You're never too young to become a leader. Nowadays, if you're not involved in sports or band or maybe some other extracurricular activities that do focus attention on a central character enough to make them bring out their leadership abilities, you're sort of just awash in this swamp, and leadership doesn't necessarily emerge. Your organizations do just that. You teach people not just how to give orders and to be a leader, but rather how to follow orders and to be a good soldier. When I say soldier, I don't necessarily mean military. I mean a worker.
Right. I mean, if you're looking at the nature of the organization, our tagline is faith, service, fun. One of the ways you learn leadership is to serve, because again, this is a Christ-centered organization. Christ served, or he led by serving. So we try to teach the girls the same thing. We previously lived in North Carolina when we first got introduced to American Heritage Girls. It just happened to be at the church that we were attending. And then when we moved to Hawaii, it was there as well. But my girls have, picked up trash on the beaches, and they've painted fences at a equine reserve. They've done all kinds of different service projects, and it's hard work, and they're sweating, and they still call it fun because it's been instilled in a lifestyle. And when you can serve alongside friends, it is fun.
I was fortunate enough to have been in scouting in the 50s and the early 60s. And even scouting was different then. Forgetting about the gender issues, it was still a different world. And it was a little more strict, I think, as everything is.
Right.
We did see, however, a lot of, and I went to a church-sponsored scouting troop. However, we have over time had a lot of scouts, both Cub Scouts and Boy Scout packs and troops, sponsored by secular organizations. For instance, the Chipley Kiwanis Club originally sponsored both Pack 339 and Troop 39 for the Cub and Boy Scouts. What happened is, because of these changes and because of we are such a litigious society now, that organizations such as the Chipley Kiwanis Club realized that it wasn't a matter of if, but when we would be sued for being a part of whatever the changes were, that now we have those religious organizations stepping back in because they cannot be sued, successfully anyway. At least that's the school of thought as far as the church that took over it's already been, they've already had test cases to some point. Now, anybody can be sued. I'm not saying they can't be sued, but they cannot be legitimately and successfully sued for professing their faith, because it is faith-based. And as long as it's based on your faith. But
what you brought up is when I first started in American Heritage Girls back in 2009, the church we were attending, I learned from the leadership in that troop that that church had previously had a Girl Scout troop, and part of the reason that they switched was litigious reasons, because of the way that the charter is in both American Heritage Girls as well as Trail Life. Our charter organizations own the charter and can at any time dismiss us at their will. So we fall under their authority, and in doing so, it protects them from the exact things that you were worried about, obviously, with the Kiwanis Club. Because of, like you said, when there are changes, if there was a leadership or issue and they didn't, think that was in line with their values or what they wanted taught, then, if they tried to remove them, they could have been sued. And that was one of the biggest reasons that church had made the change, was because they had missionaries all over the world, and they were not going to risk the livelihood of those missionaries for this one program.
An old-time famous comedian said he would have no respect for an organization which would have him for a member. And many times we end up being a part of an organization because they have like beliefs or like mores as do we. And that's human nature. There's certainly a lot to be said for being part of an organization that has some kind of disparate beliefs so that you can learn, that you can be exposed to things. But when it comes to the fundamentals, when it comes to the core belief values, when it comes to the religious tenets, then obviously you have to draw a line in the sand. What's going on, to go to a little more lighter subject, what's going on new and exciting with Trail Life, Coy, these days?
Well, I have to mention that we have First Baptist Church in Bonifay. The reason Cheryl is here is because we just recently chartered the very first American Heritage Girls troop in this area.
Right.
And Cheryl is the
Assistant.
vice coordinator. Carissa Hadley is our troop coordinator. She's like the troop master. I'm the troop master for the troop. She's the troop master for the American Heritage
And
Girls.
is that same verbiage used, troop master?
Troop coordinator for
not
American
matron
Heritage
or-
Girls.
No, troop coordinator.
Now, let me ask a quick question.
That's actually how we met. When we moved to this area, I was looking for an American Heritage Girls troop locally, and obviously there wasn't one, but there was a Trail Life, and I was a little surprised because Bonifay is a little bit of a small town compared to where we've lived previously. Trail Life has been around, like you said, 4 years as an organization?
Well, they rolled out in 2014, so
Okay.
yeah, 4 years.
And
But it's only in Bonifay because Coy brought it
right,
to Bonifay.
correct. But
And he's not from Bonifay.
Right. American Heritage Girls has been around for over 20 years, and there wasn't one within an hour. So I sent him a message, and he responded, and we met with the pastor there, and he was very interested, but obviously we were new to the town. But about Christmas time, like, okay, I think it's time. And we started the process, and we're now an official ministry of First Baptist Bonifay.
Yes, and I have to mention too that we talked about the American Heritage Schools program helped Trail Life USA become an organization. They helped us get chartered and helped us lay the groundwork. And we are official ministry partners.
Right.
Trail Life USA and American Heritage Girls, we've signed the letters and we are official ministry partners.
Shelley is a pretty dynamic person himself.
Yes.
And he definitely embraces anything that makes sense. So it doesn't surprise me. To your comments, though, been around 20 years. I'm not necessarily a worldly person, although I feel that in some ways I am. I have never heard of American Heritage. So shame on us as an area, maybe, for not having...
I mean, it takes time to grow. These organizations are labor intensive because the girls matter. And so to give a quality program, it takes a bit of work. And so sometimes you're more focused inward, and it takes time to get off the ground before you can start to spread. So
Yeah, personal comment from me. I feel that sometimes that perhaps that's the reason why scouting took a step back. We're all busy. We've all got 2 jobs, and when you got kids and grandkids and all that goes with it. So sometimes availability is mistaken for ability. Mm-hmm. And if you're the one that's available and you want to be in there and want to be part of it, sometimes you're not always the right person for the job. And maybe over time, that's what caused some of our socioeconomic issues and in some cases sexual issues that caused the big rift. However, what's really cool is that we're here to talk about the good news that you guys are here. If somebody wants to get involved with Trail Life, Coy, we've mentioned in the past how they can do so. Let our viewers know how they can get more information, and if they have a young man in their family, how they can get involved with Trail Life.
The easy way is to contact me in the local area. Coy Pennington, my number is 850-547-1966. My email is coyp@excite.com. Or you can contact First Baptist Church in Bonifay, or you can go to traillifeusa, all mashed together, .com. There's a tab on there where you can find a troop. you put in your zip code, and it'll give you the contact information for all the troops in the local area.
Coy's telephone number right now on the screen, so that you can call Coy. You can call Coy if you have any interest. American Heritage Girls, Cheryl, how can they get in touch with you, or what's the best course of action if they want to get involved?
Again, multiple ways to get in touch with us. You can contact First Baptist Bonne Fe. The phone number that Coy just gave, he's our charter organization rep. He can point you our way as well.
So same number?
Yep, same phone number works. And we also have a troop email, ahgfl126@gmail.com.
All right, and for our purposes, we've got that phone number, which is the same phone number for American Heritage Girls or for Trail Life on the screen right now. Where do we go from here? And we talked about going from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. You've got the do you have the equivalent of Brownies and Girl Scouts?
Yeah, American Heritage Girls is for ages 5 to 18. So it'll go through the whole gamut
That,
of the
for all
youth.
practical purposes,
Yes.
is the Brownie stage.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
I don't know if that's copyrighted, if we can say that.
No,
but it's what we understand.
Right, correct. So there are different levels, just like Trail Life has different levels, and each level has progressively more difficult badge work and leadership requirements and things like that. So,
thank you both for all that you do. Back up, thank you for your service, both military. But thank you for taking the time, having the patience, having the stick-to-itiveness, batting your head against the wall. I think it would probably feel like at times to make these respective organizations happen. You've done that. You've already got some sterling examples. Your son's one of them. He's grown into a fine young man. We look to see more of him. You brought your daughter here today with you. This is what makes up a community. They say it takes a village. You know, in theory, I guess that's true. But what's more important is that it takes individuals that want to take the time away from their oh-so-busy life. You know, some people you ask how they're doing, and all they can tell you is, oh, man, I'm so busy. I've got so much going on. Well, they say if you want something done, find a busy person. So if you're truly a busy person, chances are you're the one that gets tapped, or you're the one that misses a meeting and all of a sudden you're the vice president of an organization, or you're the chairman of an organization. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's exactly how it works.
So, but at the end of the day, both of you, great examples of people who care, who do, and who are standing by your faith and your word and making it happen every day. So I appreciate that. I would like to reserve the opportunity, just as Coy comes on occasionally. Cheryl, if you would, please revisit with us over time.
Okay.
Anytime you've got a special event coming up that you want a little bit of promotion
Sure.
for, anytime you want to just maybe do a recruitment effort, please stay in touch with us, and we look forward to seeing you at Kiwanis Lunch today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our guests today have been Cheryl Harris from American Heritage Girls and Coy Pennington from Trail Life. You've seen Coy before, you've heard a little bit about Trail Life. It's interesting in the juxtaposition, seeing both organizations sitting side by side. If you are of a faith-based mind, if you care about our standards, our ideals, our morals, if you will, and you have young children, if you know young children, if you have grandchildren, certainly an organization, both of them, worthy of some attention. We can do no better work than to ensure that our children grow up strong, with faith, and become productive members of society. We'll be right back.